This is the Khmer Times News. My name is Paolo Bonini, and these are your headlines. A staggering 11,000 hectares of stolen land is reclaimed. A gunman goes to rob a multi-millionaire, but he shoots himself in the head. And a fraudster who claimed not to have any of her victims' money has in fact 200 bank accounts. But we start this week with our headline story, a story that very graphically shows how rampant land theft is within the kingdom, as the Ministry of Environment has announced that it has confiscated nearly 11,000 hectares of land, and all of it has been cleared illegally. That is a vast area of trees and natural habitat that has been bulldozed and chainsawed so that illegal land grabbers could sell the timber and brutalize the land. Now, I want you to understand how big 11,000 hectares is. Trust me, it is a massive chunk of land. If you convert that into miles, you would have a square of land where each side of the square would be over 42 miles long. Now think about that. That is colossal. The Environment Ministry spokesman said that police had captured 50 suspects, of whom 18 have now been sent to face a legal prosecution. Passat has had big problems with illegal land grabs and deforestation, and it has not gone unnoticed by the Prime Minister, as it is he that instructed the army to move in and take back the land. But it's not just Passat, as the clampdown is nationwide. 800 officers carried out simultaneous emergency operations nationwide to stop this illegal encroachment and illegal logging within protected areas. The fight is well and truly on to at long last put an end to illegal land grabs and logging within the kingdom. In this week's crime desk, a woman who stole a truckload of money and then said she don't have it. But guess what? She does. And a robber holds up one of Cambodia's wealthiest men and ends up shooting himself in the head. Now we start with a follow-up to a story we have been tracking rather closely due to its enormity, the one about this woman. A woman who set up a fake land investment company and has fleeced thousands of people out of what is believed to be a staggering $300 million. And it's not just the cash that she has been taking, for she has also been taking the piss, because what she claimed only last week was that she in fact had no money. It had all been spent, and you may recall I asked the question, what the hell did she buy with all that money? Belgium? Well, it turns out that the financial forensic guys set about tapping at their keyboards, and they started to unearth bank accounts controlled by this very fraudster. Not one or two accounts, not a handful of accounts, not even an armful. Nope, so far they have found an amazing 183 bank accounts, all associated with this scam. And the feeling is millions of dollars in stolen money may well have been recovered. But as to how much of the 300 million stolen lays within these accounts has yet to be announced. The truth is, the story is not just about the theft of money on a vast scale. It is also a terrible, tragic tale of how one unbelievably greedy woman has destroyed entire families. She has sent them into poverty and into complete and utter despair, just so she could swan about with her inflated self-importance and live the high life off the backs of other people's misery. Police have said they are still investigating a failed robbery of an exceedingly prominent businessman who is the owner of Khmer Park, a sprawling development that is worth many millions of dollars. It seems he was targeted by a robber that burst into his luxury villa brandishing a handgun. But it was that very gun that was to take the robber's life. The suspect broke into the victim's home and pointed the gun at the businessmen and at his relatives who were in the house at the time. He then demanded $200,000 in cash. The large house was busy, and the robber herded the 20 members of the terrified family into a single room. And he then told the businessman's wife to go to the bank and bring him $200,000. And it's right here it all goes a bit weird, as what the robber asked was quite simply impossible, for it was 10 o'clock at night and the banks, of course, were closed. Now, as to why the robber did not think of this has everyone wondering what actually went on in this robbery. It all sounds so very strange. And this dramatic hold-up unravelled after the victim's wife managed to use a telephone not seen by the robber to call for the military police. And it's those military police officers that soon moved in on the luxury villa. And it was not long before the suspect was surrounded by armed officers. And seeing no way out, he raised his gun to his temple and he shot himself in the head. Now, we have already touched on the subject in our opening story this week, and that is the vast swathes of land being deforested by illegal loggers who are tearing down forests at record speeds just so that they can line their pockets. And that deforestation comes at a very high price, not just for a nation, but also globally. As the PM recently pointed out how serious global warming is, he said that according to the United Nations, the Earth's temperature is projected to reach record highs from 2024 to 2027. The Premier spoke at the Ministry of Meteorology and he said, according to the United Nations alert on the 17th of May, the Earth's temperature is projected to reach record highs. And this increase is attributed to a combination of just two phenomena: greenhouse gas emissions and the El Nino events. And he is so very right. You see, here is the crux of this story, and it's in the numbers. And these numbers are truly frightening. Just looking at the numbers alone, we see that Cambodia's primary forest cover fell dramatically from over 70% in 1970 to just 3.1% by 2007. Deforestation is proceeding at an alarming rate. Nearly 75% of forest loss within the kingdom has occurred since the end of the 1990s. So those criminals who carry a chainsaw rather than a gun are doing way more damage to the nation than is ever imaginable. We do not often wander into the world of business too much, as it does not excite in the same way as murder or a body in a suitcase does. But it should do, because the kingdom's economy is on a very exciting trajectory. And it is reports like the following one that should give you a very strong feeling of reassurance that if you live and maybe invest in the kingdom, you are in safe territory. For a recent report states that Cambodia is expected to see a 6.6% rise in its economy in 2024. The country's growth is mainly driven by garment exports, tourism, agriculture, as well as construction and a developing real estate sector. Over recent decades, Cambodia has undergone a remarkable transformation, evolving into a modern and globally integrated economy. Now, I, for one, can vouch for that sentence. You see, I have lived here for 17 years, and back then in Siem Reap, there were ladies by the side of dusty roads who would rent you a mobile phone for a phone call. It cost, I think, 1,000 real. They would have a piece of cardboard with prices per minute, as back then, nobody had mobile phones. Now, imagine that. Cambodians devoid of their beloved mobile phones. And it's not just that, as there were no cars in Siem Reap. Nearly 2 decades ago, only a few Camrys were available as taxis. But now we are knee-deep in Lexuses. The change I alone have witnessed is truly staggering. And the economy is still on the rise, with growth projected to return to the pre-pandemic level of 7% per annum by 2028. And these numbers make Cambodia #1 in the region for domestic growth. So, if you're a savvy investor or have a good business plan, Cambodia is a land of opportunities. It's time to have a look ahead and see what the weather has in store for us next week.
Phew, we've broken through the barrier and made it to the weather. That was a horrible show to do. I'm glad that's over. It was so hot in the studio, I can't tell you. The air conditioning was just basically doing nothing, and we can see why. You need to look at the base of the screen for the top temperatures, and you see 39 degrees across the board, and that's what you're going to get next week as well. And those clouds mixed with that bit of sun right there makes a heady cocktail of humidity. The humidity is going to rise to 60%. There is a slight chance of rain, but not really, tell you the truth. So here's the deal. It's going to be as hot as the center of the sun, and it's going to be as humid as the center of the jungle.
This has been the Khmer Times News. Please do subscribe and comment and stay up to date with all the breaking news by following us on both Facebook and Telegram. This has been Paolo Bonini, and that was the week that was. I'll see you next weekend for your weekly roundup.